So the OmniVerse, or really the metaverse, from its inception with Neil Stephenson's novel Snow Crash in 1992, depicting futuristic cyberpunk decentralized global economies, to Facebook's pivotal name change to Meta in 2021, reflecting its vision of a largely virtual society and economy, the metaverse has held the promise of experiencing virtual worlds, not constrained by the realities of the physical domain. The metaverse went from hype to bust in 2022. Although perceived mainly as a commercial flop, the metaverse has irreversibly opened our eyes to a future where digital and physical worlds coexist. The boundaries of these two planes continue to ebb and flow as consumers seek new experiences and escapist entertainment, and companies strive to leverage new technologies in innovative ways for competitive differentiation and brand relevance with the promise of elevating customer experiences. Besides popular consumer applications, gaming, and entertainment, the OmniVerse is rapidly becoming an effective and immersive channel to reach and engage with customers. So we have an opinion, and I want to be somewhat disruptive here, that businesses should shape their metaverse strategy as an extension of the OmniChannel experience as the OmniVerse, bridging the digital and physical domains of immersive experiences. But is the OmniVerse real? Is it relevant? And is it strategic for our businesses? To help unpack this opinion, I'm honored to introduce our speakers. Antonysammy, Chief Digital Solutions Officer of Hitachi Vantara, James Havens, General Manager, Customer Experience, Toyota Motors North America, and Chris Massot, Director of Co-Innovation with Microsoft. Thank you, gentlemen, for helping me figure this out today and see what's real. So I want to start our conversation with the consumer-focused brand, because that's where we kind of center our concepts around the metaverse and now the OmniVerse. So, James, I kind of get your perspectives and viewpoints on the OmniVerse as a relevant strategy for your business.
Yeah, absolutely, and thanks for having us today. Really appreciate it. There was kind of three things at Toyota that really kind of got us on this journey, and we're still in a really early stage of that journey. One was modernization activities that needed to happen inside of our digital experiences for our consumers and our dealer network. And being a large company with a long history, we had quite a bit of tech debt that we had to address. And knowing that addressing that is part of our strategy to get into a space where we can meet our customers where they're at and take advantage of things in an omni-channel way was absolutely really important for us. The second thing for us is really kind of looking at our own business and who our key partners are. And in our world, it's the dealer franchise network. And those are made up of really small business owners to large publicly traded dealer groups. So we had to include them as a partner in this journey. And along that way, we decided to make a fairly large strategic bet to build our own digital retailing platform. So incorporating that in to meet our customer where they're at, but also making sure and thinking about the needs of our key partner, which is the dealer. And then the third thing as part of our journey has really been about just trying and innovating. So we have a lot of experiences that we've built and tailored to either the in-cabin experience, to folks working in the manufacturing side, or again, someone in a dealership world. But really just kind of trying these new ideas and new initiatives has been really kind of key to our journey. Again, we're still really early in it, but we're really excited to see where it goes from here.
Thank you. So Chris, Microsoft, you're a company focused on building lots of technologies and products. Early innovator with HoloLens. Now all we hear about is AI, ChatGPT, DALL-E. From your perspective, is the OmniVerse really relevant given these rapid advances in other technologies?
So the short answer is yes. So co-innovation in my world is work that we do with our customers to help them, define and build to their future. And there's a lot of technologies that come into play. I mean, there's been digital twin and now OpenAI and large language models are really popular. And we had IoT at one point was everything, and of course the metaverse has come up. And they all have their moments in the sun, but at the end of the day, if the metaverse is the way, the OmniVerse is the way that you described it, which is trying to create these immersive experiences and to connect people and things and experiences and all sorts of different modalities, then absolutely it's still relevant, and it's still a part of most conversations that we have with all of our customers across industry, whether you're dealing with customers like you would be, or patients like in healthcare, or guests like in hospitality. It's all still very relevant.
So it's interesting. So I've got James represents kind of consumer products. I'll say Chris largely the lens of the technology invention. Frank, kind of rolls the hat of a systems integrator. But in talking, he also informed me that they also do quite a bit of product development in some other spaces. So Frank, Hitachi is creating a lot of solutions for customers like James using some technologies that Chris produces. From your point, what is your viewpoint of the things that you're actually creating within the marketplace?
So if you look at Hitachi, the large businesses that we are in are what we call social innovation businesses, right? Whether it is transportation, where we run these high-speed trains, energy, where a big part, close to 30% of the equipment in the electric grid across the world is Hitachi equipment, right? Or large manufacturing businesses. These used to be standalone industrial businesses, right? Now the consumption of, and the convergence of technologies between software and hardware is real. And if you look at our energy business, for example, the grid used to be unidirectional, right? So power is being generated somewhere and you use the grid to transmit and distribute power. But now as you have consumers starting to generate solar on their rooftops and feeding back into the grid, right? And when you have renewable energy being feeding into the grid is suddenly becoming bidirectional, right? And along with this comes expectations and use cases that customers have that say, okay, how do I know, am I consuming power from the grid? Am I generating it, feeding it into the grid? Can I run my washer dryer when I'm generating power from sustainable energy, right? So we see this convergence of physical assets, mission-critical systems, and software becoming real. And the resultant expectation from the end customer is changing, because all the experiences that we're all used to having on a mobile phone, that's the same expectation that you're now beginning to expect when you're using power from your grid or running a huge machinery in a mine, right? So the expectations from customers is shifting, and the convergence of software and these hard physical assets is becoming real for us to be able to cater to those customer needs today.
So are you witnessing in the marketplace, improved customer or competitive advantage from the OmniVerse as a platform?
Whether we target OmniVerse, we've had a lot of these terms of, IoT was a thing, right? Where the technology and the buzzword was ahead of the adoption, right? Where it used to be this conversation to come in and say, okay, what do you want to do with in IoT, right? Or what do we want to do on 5G? Where we are seeing is the expectations of the use cases like this starting, right? As a consumer, can I have a real-time sense of, am I consuming energy that is from the renewable energy sources so I can prioritize what I want to do? And when you look back at what is being driven as market need and customer need, and then you go back to say, can my existing technology stack address and cater to what the customers want, right? Then you start layering the technology capabilities that are needed to deliver that experience that the customers want. From that perspective, yes, OmniVerse and OmniChannel experiences are being built into the overall stack that our customers are demanding from us today.
So when we think of, Metaverse and Omniverse, earlier it was, the Oculus Rift and HoloLens and people walking around and playing games, utopian society. I think the reality that's, a very consumer-centric use case. In our conversations and preparing for this, I learned that there's a significant domain of use cases, not just for customers or consumers. Chris and I spent time in the hospitality industry and did several billion-dollar transformations in theme parks and cruise ships around, elevated guest experiences. But these experiences are also intended for, we would say, the crew or the cast or employees. James, we were talking a bit about Toyota. You think of Toyota, it's like, oh yeah, you're in a dealership selling cars, but from your lens, a lot of your relationships are with dealers. Can you maybe unpack a little bit about some of the experiences that you're building that aren't really consumer-facing, but really help transform digitally in a value-added way from your whole business?
Yeah, absolutely. And focusing on the consumer side, yes, there are opportunities for us as we build an omni-channel experience to incorporate these for the consumer. But really, what we talked about earlier is where it really becomes valuable is going to be in incorporating the dealer into that in ways that they can better take care of the customer. So there's a lot of opportunity that we see out there, but one example is from a technician standpoint, being able to train our technicians in the dealerships through technologies that really kind of create this immersive experience, and then when they're actually performing maintenance or service on these vehicles, and then they're able to share what they're seeing in real time with the customer or with their staff. There's a lot of really cool use cases that we see just in the training and education and in the operations side. And you can really extend that out to the manufacturing floor plant, you can extend that out to logistics. There's a lot of ways in which you can incorporate that in to really kind of create a better, more excellent operation from that standpoint. And then, oh, by the way, you still get to get those cool touch points with your consumers in those areas. So if we incorporate this technology in a, we'll call it a supply chain environment, how cool is that is when it passes a certain stage of the supply chain, then you can share that information with the customer who's been waiting quite a long time for their new Toyota or their new Lexus.
Yeah, I can bounce on that. So, and I'm just speaking from what I see at Microsoft, I'm not speaking for the company. But in my world, it's really the industrial metaverse that is where I spend most of my time and where we have most of the opportunities that I see. And it's all in those kind of applications. They're not as sexy as the consumer applications, they're not as futuristic, but when you're talking about ways to help train people, to help people, to help them learn, to help them interact, to help them do all these things that, just to make their lives easier, then that's what we see quite a bit. And I think it also goes into what you said earlier, which is all these new technologies come out, and people think like, oh, we need to sprinkle some metaverse on this, and that'll make it all better. And then they have to take, but then it takes the time of having them understand, well, what does metaverse, what would that mean to you? And sometimes even let's just throw the word out and just say well, what are you trying to do here, right? And again, it all comes back to that tying things together. And to your point, if you look at it not just bidirectionally, but customer facing, but then also internally, what can we do to make our own processes better? But then a third angle can be how do we make the lives of our employees better? Then I think that's the direction that seems to be most effective.
So one of the things we talked about, James, is extending the experience beyond the physical process of buying a car. You mentioned accessories as a large part of your business. Maybe pull the thread on the accessory buying process and how an OmniVerse can help extend that, both for value to the customer and value for Toyota.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we talked a little bit about how things changed a lot with COVID, and then the impact that and other things had on our supply chain. So our consumers are a little bit more used to actually waiting for vehicles than they were in the past. So as consumers are purchasing vehicles, hopefully through a digital retailing tool, through Toyota, they are now waiting for their car. And now there's a really good opportunity for the car that they've ordered, the car that's on its way, an opportunity to use the OmniVerse as a way to showcase certain accessories and uptick maybe sales in those accessories by showing them what it would look like on the car when it lands on the lot. So it gives the dealer more opportunities to have immersive and really, quite frankly, very exciting interactions in a more frequent basis than they had in the past. Because we really don't have a lot of touch points with the customer. They buy the car, they service the car, but it's not as frequent as maybe other industries. This allows us to do that in a way, if we know our customer, to provide them with those opportunities. And I think accessories is a good one. And it doesn't have to happen while they're waiting for the car. It can happen after they own the car. It can happen when they're thinking about purchasing their next car. So we're really excited about that opportunity.
So I didn't want to bring it up, but let's talk about the Domino's Pizza box. So we're talking about just the process of the car being manufactured on the line, and maybe enabling through the OmniVerse visibility into that process to kind of build that excitement of the car buying process, to extend that beyond that point of sale physical interaction. We thought that potentially just making pizzas and cars down the line would actually get a lot of eyeballs on the process and make it more engaging. So let's talk about some of those specific technologies in the OmniVerse that they're building it. Maybe things just beyond the headsets. Chris, you're doing a lot of innovation at Microsoft. How much does this come up with customers and then kind of what are you seeing as just different themes and then some of the technologies that are getting deployed?
So the answer is it depends. It really depends again on the customer's application and you know, and again at Microsoft, I'm blessed that we make a lot of different products and do a lot of different things, but it really depends on what the customer's trying to do. I think the point you made is great where, and this is true whether you're a car manufacturer or you're like a beauty advisor or an online travel agent or anyone, it's just like the ability to try to understand your customer journey, which in some cases can be really long, you know, in other cases can be really repetitive, and they're all very, very different. But understanding like each part of that journey and how do you stay connected with that customer, and how can you do it in like new and innovative and creative ways, and that's what I think the Omniverse really opens up, right? Or this technology opens up, you know, and whether you're talking about, you know, communication technologies to kind of help at the edge, or if you're talking about, you know, more kind of back-end technologies like using AI to help kind of understand things like sentiment and intent and help people make buying decisions and help, you know, do things in a more kind of push way as we kind of like get away from this more traditional search, you know, culture, you know, where instead of looking for things are actually coming to you because they know what you want, right? So being able to kind of figure that out, I think that's going to dictate a lot of the different technologies that emerge and a lot of the different opportunities that come out. And, you know, of course, every one of those offers a chance for a customer to have a better experience, but also allows, you know, our customers, your companies, others to like monetize it and make more money. So, you know, that's where it is.
Yeah, I think, you know, you think of Omniverse and we always think about the headsets and maybe a pure immersive environment, but the reality is we exist in a physical environment. There's a whole spectrum there. You know, augmented reality is a great, you know, blend of things, you know, where you can potentially, you know, look at a new build construction and be in that room in the building and, you know, have your phone and look at furniture or whatever there. But I think there's some very interesting use cases on the industrial side for full immersion. Frank, maybe you can share some of what Hitachi's doing, kind of on the energy side and the new build side, and also some of the things you've done in Japan.
So we kind of look at the spatial element of it. So you had simulation, we've had modeling for a really long time, where whether it is a single asset or a process, you could do multiple what-if analysis and test cases and boundary conditions into that, right? With the availability of rendering capability that we are now, right? With the availability of faster communication capabilities and better collaboration tools, we are able to extend simulation and modeling into more of a metaverse/omniverse kind of environment, right? In very different scenarios. In product design, for example, we have global R&D teams that can real-time collaborate on building complex products, right? Whether you talk about transformers, you're talking about SCADA systems, the ability to have global teams collaborate in real time and see the impact of their specific changes reflected in the product is huge. And this goes beyond just the what-if analysis that we are used to in normal simulation. This extends into manufacturing, where, as you know, you're talking about the hyper-specific personalization that's happening in cars, right? As a lot of these products now need to be configurable, right? You're looking at specialization, personalization. The manufacturing line has to be adaptive. And again, for us to be able to train the systems and the industrial worker to be able to deal with that, we look at the metaverse as a huge opportunity, where you're not, you don't have the risk of having physical harm. Like you know, what happens if I change the temperature or a voltage to a particular limit, right? The Omniverse is a fantastic tool for us to deploy training in mission-critical applications to our workers, right? So during design, during manufacturing, and even during field service, right, the availability of expertise in complex problem solving, where a field technician who's not very highly skilled can give his her real-time feed back into a SME team that has the complete visual of the scenario that you're analyzing. That improves the productivity of the field service technician, right? So from design to manufacturing to service, we see this as the next evolution from what used to be simulation and modeling into bringing the spatial element into some of these functions.
As we're talking, you mentioned the Fukushima nuclear incident. Maybe you can share Hitachi's role and really how they deployed, the OmniVerse to help ameliorate that situation.
This is a scenario where, after the nuclear incident in Fukushima, Hitachi had the responsibility to clean up a significant part of the government trusted Hitachi to do a significant part of the cleanup of the nuclear radiation. Right? Now, these are scenarios where it's not safe for human beings to go operate in. And the R&D team in Tokyo had created this environment where we could deploy robots to do specific tasks. And there's a controller who's wearing a HoloLens and could visualize the entire environment because the robot has a 360-degree camera and so many other sensors. And in real time, the controller could get a real spatial picture of what the robot is doing. And the ability to navigate that in three-dimensional, in 3D, was a lot more efficient than a lot more precise than what if you have to do this in two-dimensional decision-making capabilities. Right? So, really mission-critical problems are being solved by leveraging capabilities and technologies like this.
So literally, that's a killer application.
Non-killer application.
Non-killer application. But I think if you look at the OmniVerse, here you've got a HoloLens and you got robots and you got a nuclear disaster. I'm not sure how futuristic that gets in terms of things. So I think a really interesting, real-world example though, where the OmniVerse presents a complete unique opportunity and a value proposition. Literally, saving people's lives, and then also, cleaning up an environment that could have, years of a lot of issues. So besides nuclear cleanup, Chris and James, I'd like to hear about killer applications in the consumer space.
Yeah, I'll jump on one real quick. And I'm thinking outside of our area in automotive, and something that we kind of aspire to do is I see about the advancements in telehealth and telemedicine and what's happening there. And in addition to getting excellent care through advanced technologies, you're really connecting a better bond with your doctor, and you're taking care of yourself. And it's really about changing the business that you're in health to something different. And I see that as aspirational and something that all industries can learn from, especially us and even in automotive. Because one thing we hear from our customers is, know me, know my car, know my story. And by using advanced technologies to enhance that overall experience, I feel like we can do that. And I think there's no better example of that, again, telehealth and telemedicine, where if you had told me many years ago that would I feel comfortable using that to get the health care that I need, I don't think I would say yes. But now it's not even a thought. And I think that's, to me, that's where the kind of killer application can be put into play.
Yeah, well, I think nothing's ever going to replace being there, right? But if you can create these environments where you can create a very immersive experience where it gets really close, and to your point, then you can start to build trust. And whether it's building trust between, a doctor and a nurse and a patient and a caregiver and that whole ecosystem, or if it's between, a retail company and their customers and their product, or if it's, nonprofits using this technology to create donor empathy by allowing people to like see what their donations are going to do, because it's impractical to send people everywhere around the world to see it, right? These are all these little applications, not little, but they're all kind of like slices of the larger ecosystems, but ways that you can help kind of bring things together. But I think if the folks that get it right, the brands that get it right, are gonna be again building that kind of brand trust. Are gonna be way ahead of the game because someone's gonna do it, and someone's gonna bring these people together in a way that others haven't. And the technology exists. We don't have to go invent anything to do any of the things that you guys just talked about. It's all using existing, mostly off the truck technology. So, someone's doing it somewhere. And we also had the discussion out front earlier that, a lot of times what's lacking for these companies is the infrastructure in order to allow them to do it, and I think that's oftentimes, the biggest hurdle, and maybe why a lot of these technologies fall flat, or at least appear to fall flat, is because it just takes a while for people to be ready for it. It's easy enough to say, I want to do this specific, I want to provide a specific experience, but then, actually having to build all the runway to get there, just takes time. And, and those that, again, are ahead of the game and think of it early are the ones that are going to win.
Yeah, I know a lot of the prior panels were on, technical infrastructure, cloud infrastructure, migrating this, hail, all this great stuff. What's interesting though is at some level, the OmniVerse presents use cases for brands for differentiation that are going to really be a forcing function to really eliminate a lot of this technical debt. So for like all the global SI firms out there, be happy there's an OmniVerse because customers are going to need to really burn down that debt, and there's going to be a lot of business to be made. And I think it's surprising how little technical infrastructure is in the cloud.
Well, so here's the thing. We did a project in the beauty industry a while ago, targeted towards beauty advisors, and I'm guessing this is probably going to be similar to like your dealers, where the person at the end in this like B2B2B thing, they're all over the map when it comes to technical aptitude, infrastructure, and they didn't get into their business as a dealership or as a beauty advisor because they're technologists, right? So someone has to go make it easy for them, right? And that's often where the sticking point was, and that's where it was with ours. Is we had to come up with a solution that was simple enough where a sole proprietorship beautician could use it with existing tools. And you're not going to get them to use Teams on their iPhone. That's just not going to happen. So how can we do it in a way that actually uses what they do and meets them where they are?
So what's really impressed you? Give me an example of a use case in OmniVerse that just kind of is like the Domino pizza box equivalent.
I thought we couldn't use that example.
Well, yeah, but now we use it twice, so
Yeah.
apparently it's okay. It's okay if the moderator does it. Yeah. Go ahead, please, somebody.
Let me start with training, right, for us, because in a lot of these industrial fields, the biggest challenge that we're facing is the availability of skilled talent. And with the aging workforce, that workforce, a lot of the knowledge is in their heads, and when they retire, when you have to bring in fresh workforce, the learning curve to run some of these mission critical, sometimes even safety critical operations is very high. And though not very glamorous, the ability to bring these workforce up to speed on mission critical, safety critical applications. What happens if I turn this pressure gauge to a particular pressure? Is it going to blow up? Right? I'd rather learn it in the metaverse than in real life. Right? Those are the capabilities and those are the use cases where it's very practical. And one thing that we've seen is sometimes we spoke about the technical debt. It's much easier to deploy this in brand new scenarios, in greenfield scenarios, because you're not then trying to integrate your 15 different CAD applications and your simulation applications. When you have the ability to stand up a fresh stack, a lot of these use cases are, the time to deploy this are much quicker than if you're going to lug around your existing infrastructure and your technical debt in making something like this happen.
So I think it's interesting, the OmniVerse, there's unexpected value or unexpected use cases. And I think training is interesting. When people get concerned ChatGPT is going to make a bunch of jobs obsolete. Computers didn't make accountants obsolete. The IRS is still here. But I think what's interesting, though, you look at the knowledge base, and we're concerned about knowledge workers, like coding is going to go away. But I think there's so many industries, whether it's transportation industry, you name it, and also particularly in the trades, where there's just institutional and legacy knowledge that you can't replace. There's no easy replacement for it. And so I think as a vehicle for education and training, it's a way to somewhat capture that and be able to disseminate that for future people. I mean, it's not that some industries you just can't go flip a job every 2 years and maintain that level of knowledge in the corporation. And I think that's something that people maybe don't have insight to, that also help people preserve jobs or value and wealth, where some of these disruptive technologies people are just fearful of. So, take a look at unexpected value. At the end of the day, what are some of the things that you guys are seeing that's creating ROI? So not just deploying the OmniVerse for the sake of innovation, but when you have your CFO and you have a board and shareholders, you have to have accountability to where are we seeing actually value being created.
So I think a lot of it comes when you're combining these technologies, whether it's like metaverse with digital twin, or metaverse with robotics, or metaverse with large language models, to kind of create these ways. So back to the training example, by being able to do the training virtually and being able to use the other technologies to help like push information and to help do, like knowledge exchange and that kind of thing, you can, things that may have taken like 2 years to develop before can now be done in like days or months. Things that could have taken, like hours in industrial application can now take minutes. And I mean, and that's real money, right? I think so. That's where you see a lot of the ROI in these, I mean, kind of seemingly mundane applications, but very important.
Just add on, if you kind of look at when you're building a business case, are you the revenue side of the equation, or are you the cost side of the equation, right? Capabilities and technologies like the OmniVerse that we're deploying, easier to justify and quantify when you're doing it for productivity improvements and efficiency. Right? So I'm going to have labor improvement, productivity, so many hours to so many hours. Very hard numbers we can quantify. A little bit more difficult when you're looking at revenue projections and how it's going to improve it. But I think all of the efficiency-related use cases is much easier for us to build a business case or to take to the CFO.
Yeah, I got both of what was just said here, so I won't repeat too much of it, but very similar mindset as well. I think it kind of looks in 2 buckets. Is this a sales and marketing expense? Is this going to improve the experience? Is it, something, we don't want to do innovation just for innovation's sake, but sometimes you look at this as it's a sales or marketing expense. Where I do feel like the ROI is starting to show itself in a lot of ways, like you mentioned before, where you're going to get cost savings is going to be behind the scenes. It's going to be the employee training, it's going to be an operational efficiency, it's going to be risk avoidance. You're going to see a ton of that if you pull the covers back a little bit to look at that. So what we've been seeing a lot of times is really around cost avoidance to generate a positive ROI. There's also revenue generation that can be created directly from those investments. So again, we talked a little bit about accessories, we talked about some of the other things. So, looking at something, say, is it really just going to build a brand, which is a good thing, you want to do that, or is it actually going to generate revenue directly through an investment with our dealer partners or other avenues? So that's kind of how we're looking at it.
I mean, I think if you think about like being able to do these things virtually, whether it's car exploration virtually, or there's a lot of like virtual try-on for the fashion industry. Those are applications that could clearly be revenue generating because they're net new and again, it's looking for things like customer acquisition and just grow market size and all that.
All right, we're getting close to closing time. I have a bunch more questions I wanted to talk about, so let's do this over cocktails later. I don't want to call it the rapid fire, but it will be. So in closing, I guess, will we be discussing the OmniVerse in 2024? Yes or no, and why?
I'm going to go first. I don't think we will as much be discussing this as a technology term. It's like IoT, right? IoT is no longer in the vernacular, but we are using these applications. My guess is it would pretty much become like that.
Yeah, I'm going to say yes because I feel like it's a natural evolution of OmniChannel. It's just enhancing that overall, again, know the customer, know what their experiences are, and I think customers are going to expect a little bit innovation in that space.
And I'm going to say yes for what I said before, which is this idea of connecting people and experiences and things in multiple modalities is not going to go away anytime soon. And as soon as we make advancements in it, then there's going to be the next generation of what that looks like. So you may not call it that, but it'll be around.
So my takeaway is yes. I also think the big applications are going to be in industrial uses and for employee engagement. So thank you for my panelists for sharing this conversation today. Thank you to the audience for being the last one here. We are Mr. Relevant in terms of panels, so thank you.